How's it going, everyone? Got quite a lot to talk about in this video. I know a lot of you guys had wishful thinking about Marvel's Wolverine Insomniac-developed title coming out in 2024, and that would be the major PlayStation 5 exclusive of 2024. If that was the case, man, give Insomniac even more flowers than they already have, but it looks like Wolverine won't be dropping until 2025, and even if that's the case, still give Insomniac their flowers, because guess what? They put out Spider-Man 2 this year. If they put out Wolverine 2 years from now, that is still an incredible achievement from them. We'll talk about that and some other details as well. It looks like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2 will be happening, and potentially Borderlands 4. We'll talk that in a little bit, and I want to give you guys an update on one of the more underrated 2024 JRPGs that I am personally looking forward to, Unicorn Overlord, coming from Vanillaware, a studio that I talk up all the time. We'll talk that at the end of this video, as it's gotten some brand new gameplay. But first of all, let's talk Marvel's Wolverine. According to known leaker Daniel Richtman, not only will Wolverine not be released in 2024, but it will also feature a darker and more violent tone than the past games from the studio. I think that makes sense when you compare Wolverine to Spider-Man. Yeah, I would expect a more mature tone out of Wolverine. As far as location goes, the game is rumored to be set in Madripoor, a Southeast Asian city within the Marvel universe as well. The city has been long known as a haven for pirates after being built upon the back of a dragon. I'm not, well-versed in Marvel lore or anything like that, but nevertheless, Insider Gaming does note its proximity to the most important Asian ports makes it a largely lawless haven for smugglers, secret societies, and warlords constantly vying for control. That is according to Marauders Volume 1, issue number 19. Release date still unplanned, and it looks like Wolverine will be a 2025 game. I think people were having way too much wishful thinking that this would be a 2024 game, and that, we saw like a listing on a actor's page, and they thought, oh, it's gonna be a 2024 title because, the window listed was 2024. Take that with a very big grain of salt. And I know Insomniac is one of the most consistent studios on the planet, given that they did Miles Morales in 2020 and followed that up with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart in June of the following year. Yeah, they're pretty good about consistently putting out games. However, what seems to be lost is Miles Morales was a smaller game, just building upon a little bit of Spider-Man 2018, so that wasn't a true AAA release. The fact is, Spider-Man 2 just came out in 2023. That's a true next-gen AAA game that some could argue could have used a tiny bit more time in the oven just to refine some things and whatnot, but, good on them for getting that out in fall of 2023. They kind of had to, because it was a barren wasteland as far as PlayStation first party goes in the fall of this year, and this year in general, so they kind of were... Insomniac had a lot of pressure on them to get that game out this year, but it'll be consistently getting updates, and I'm sure at some point you would have to think Spider-Man 2 is gonna get DLC. Look, if past this prologue with Sony, you're really starting to see their new game plan come into effect on how they treat their games. Insomniac did it with Spider-Man. Remember, 2 years after the release of Spider-Man 1, they did Miles Morales, then they followed that up by porting Spider-Man and Miles Morales to PC. The idea from a Sony standpoint is, how do we get the biggest longevity in terms of monetizing these games? Whether it be DLC content, whether that be remasters like Last of Us Part 2 or remakes like Last of Us Part 1, if you want to consider that a remake, the PC versions, etc., etc. It's all about monetizing these games with things like that, and DLC, of course, falls into that category as well. And I love the idea, based on reports, that God of War Ragnarok is going to get some sort of Miles Morales style expansion or standalone title. All about that. Game development time these days is so long that the idea of these 1.5 style titles, I think, makes a lot of sense. I think it's best for everyone. We get more quality out of these incredible studios. It gets to bridge the gap into the following true next title. And, from a financial standpoint from Sony, I'm sure that's a very effective model to go by, especially given that they're doing these PC ports and whatnot, and those tend to hold up in price as well. Diatribe over, but I expect some sort of Spider-Man 2 extension to be announced next year, potentially, and then Wolverine, maybe 2025. If Insomniac does put something out in 2024, I expect more so it to be Spider-Man 2 DLC. I think that makes a lot of sense. But moving on from that, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2 and Borderlands 4 potentially have been leaked. Recently, a reference made on LinkedIn profile has surfaced, revealing that both Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2 and Borderlands 4 are in development. It was a while ago that Randy Pitchford, the former CEO of Gearbox, suggested that Borderlands 4 was in development, and this recent reference does make all the sense in the world. On the profile of a senior technical and producer director who worked briefly for Gearbox Software, they did note that the few titles they were working on was Borderlands 4 Unreal Engine 4 and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2 in Unreal Engine 4. So there you go with that. As far as what title would be next, you would have to think it would be Borderlands 4, given that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands came out in 2022. I would imagine that that could potentially be, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2 would be like maybe a 2025, 2026 game, and Borderlands 4 could be a fall 24 or, 25 title. That's what I would think, and maybe they'll alternate between the two. You guys know me, I wasn't a big fan of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I still thought the gameplay was fine. Borderlands 3 didn't really click with me either, so hopefully Borderlands 4 can revitalize my interest. Obviously, it's like a gameplay style that a lot of people can get into, and I totally understand that, but for me, Borderlands 2 was the peak of Borderlands. I did like the pre-sequel as well, but nevertheless, there you go with that. Those are two titles I'm sure people are gonna get excited about. And lastly, a game that's coming relatively soon and that I'm very much looking forward to is the latest RPG developed by Vanillaware. This time around, a strategy RPG in Unicorn Overlord, and we have gotten 8 minutes of new gameplay of the PlayStation 5 version of this title. Now, this is a game that, just based on the fact of it being a Vanillaware game, has me very excited. For a while, I thought about what the hell is Vanillaware doing? Do they got a new game in development or what? What are they working on? And 13 Sentinels came out all the way back in the fall of 2020, I want to say, so obviously their game had to be pretty far along, and then they announced Unicorn Overlord, and then, hey, guess what? Unlike what a lot of publishers do these days, the game's actually out pretty soon. It's coming out in March of next year, so that is super, super exciting, the fact that we are going to get this game relatively quickly. The character designs in the game look awesome. Obviously, the art style is great as well. That's the Vanillaware flair, and kind of that whole appeal that they've carved out for themselves. Their games are great outside of the art style, but I feel like that's already something that does set them apart from everybody else. The game will be released on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch. No PC release, which kind of interesting that Vanillaware hasn't had any of their games come out on PC, but what can you do? It is out on March 8th, so this is a game that I often, don't mention when we talk about that early 2024 period, but again, to quickly go over, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Tekken 8, Persona 3 Reload, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Suicide Squad. Even if I'm not excited for that game, that's still a pretty big release. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Unicorn Overlord, Dragon's Dogma 2, rumored for March as well. What the hell, guys? Like, this is even crazier than the crazy 2023 everybody was saying. We have that first 3 months of January, February, March of next year, and that's just off the top of my head. Last of Us Part 2 remastered, by the way, out at that time as well, and that's actually got a new component, $10 upgrade, so not gonna crap on it as much as I did Part 1, but my goodness, that early 2024, and I'll do a separate video about this, but wallets are about to be ravaged. Like, let's just be honest here, let's be frank, wallets are going to be taken, they are going to be completely crapped on, and they are just going to be obliterated as far as all these games coming out if you're trying to pick them up, because this is one of the most insane quarters I am seeing shape up for, in gaming history. Like, this is absolute insanity, and yeah, I can't wait for it, but man, like, some games are obviously gonna be iced for a while, I think, for a lot of us, but that'll do it for me. Again, Wolverine looking to be a 2025 title if reports are to be believed, and I feel like that is pretty likely. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2 and Borderlands 4 potentially leaked, and Unicorn Overlord, that's a JRPG that, sure, it's not at the level of a P3R, of FF7 Rebirth, a Grand Blue Fantasy Relink even, but I think that's one that can surprise a lot of people. Just interested to see how that strategy gameplay is gonna unfold, but that'll do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.